really touches my heart. This is totally unexpected, and it wasn't as if I had even baked the crisp especially for them.
Yeah. I mean, look at this. Now, I will say they are not from America.
No, they are from German. They are German.
And isn't that a dreadful mandate about where we have fallen to? That we are careless, thoughtless, and reckless with one another's, with our gratitude. So, very interesting. It's so simple that you think, oh, there's nothing to learn from that little experience. There's everything to learn. It's called grace and graciousness. Yep. Well, at any rate, I will talk a little teeny bit since you've mentioned Germany. My great new healing modality tool is also out of Germany, and it is called this Beamer. No joke, I think now there have been close to 40 people on and off this modality since I got here. And it's simple, it's painless, you don't strip down, I do tell people, just out of courtesy for the equipment, please take your shoes off. I do tell them that. And I personally like to be on equipment without my watch on or things that just, I don't know. A couple of people had a medal on, like an angel or a sacred something, and that is very acceptable because it will actually clear out the metal energy, that anything, if it's collected any negativity. So I've seen some interesting occurrences on this thing, as a person would have a session, and a session is a whopping 8 minutes. And artists saw 20 people on Sunday have sessions, and between the two of us, it was everything from, I can move my shoulder and it's been frozen.
It was fascinating.
That was our Pamela. One gal had, I know over the years she's had 2 frozen shoulders, and a lot of therapy. So there's a residual pain, and I know she was trying to be very brave, and I don't feel anything, and half the time you don't feel anything, but she got up off the equipment and experienced a great sense of relief. So that was interesting. And the other, some were certainly more dramatic than others, because you don't know what you're experiencing, and you don't know how to interpret it. But one gal hobbled in on crutches. She had been in a lovely falling accident, and so her foot was kaflunked, and her hand had been kaflunked. And the hand was all bound up in an ace bandage, and so she went on it and, comes off. And when you're that injured, you don't even know what to expect. And so she kind of got off and like, okay, thank you very much. Well, halfway through my talk, I decided out of the clear blue to ask her if she would like to just go back on that thing and let's just simply wind it around her hand and see if she has any sensation whatsoever. Back she goes, and starting to take the ace bandage off, and I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. The energy will reach you through the bandage. And she's like, nope, I want it off. Incidentally, the people that are experiencing this, these are not people without an education, without a solid basis of good earning ability. These are very strong individuals as far as what they've accomplished. And she has been a district of attorney somewhere, and now she has her own law firm. So you've got that sort of scientific mind that's going to make a good judgment call about this. She's on this thing for 8 minutes, goes back to her seat, sits down, and I'm now giving the talk to the group. All of a sudden, she's kind of got this arm that wasn't working so well, raised up in the air with a pen, swinging it around, moving the wrist, which was not so much moving, and says, I can hold the pen and write. This is pretty interesting to me. And there we have it.
Yeah, she said there's as she had said, there's still a bit of pain there, but she said it was excruciating this morning. I thought I was going to have to go get a shot in my hand. It was so bad.
So, again, I can say that this is tied in with Ardith receiving a lovely little flower and a thank you note from Germany. So I think, we've got to take note from cultures that are perhaps still in touch with fine creativity. Now, that's not to say we're not creative here, but our creativity now, just saying, just watching, is very much tied in with stress. The stress level is off the charts, and people are working long, long hours with little vacation. And this is not done in other cultures. They will take time to restore and regenerate and, move back into balance if they feel they've lost it. So it's kind of too bad nobody can say, hey, what are you girls up to over there? But nonetheless, I hope you're getting something from this. Ardith, is there anything else at this moment you would like to add about your work with the angels?
Again, it's, as Elaine was just saying, everyone just seems to be so distracted, going in so many different directions, and especially with today's technology. There's so much more. Certainly when back in ancient times, when the sun came up, we got up. When the sun went down, we went to bed. And there was quiet around us, and it was so much easier, to connect with the divine, to connect with nature. But those are things that, if we want to have that inner peace and that fulfillment, we need to give we really need to get back to that in what way we can. Certainly, we have different parameters nowadays, but just to give ourselves a few minutes. And that's really when we can connect with the divine, and they are there. Angelic beings are there. They are with us anyway, and they would love us. To connect with them, we have free will, and they can only do so much unless we take the time to ask them. But when we are constantly so busy and constantly so pressured and constantly looking at our phones and whatever, we don't really give ourselves that time to breathe and even to have that thought. But it makes such a difference in our lives, because really it's up to us to help fulfill ourselves on the inside, and all those things in the outside world cannot.
They cannot. Anything outside of us is not going to be the healing agent it's coming from inside. So, and that's where we've got to go back into the inside. And
to just give ourselves that space to, connect, to talk with the angels, to connect with them. And it can really be anytime, any place. It doesn't have to be in a certain room, any certain posture. They are open. They are just really open to, they just really want to love us and assist us and help us to evolve spiritually, because that's really why we are here on planet Earth.
Well said. That's the only reason we're here. Yep. And it's true, as Ardith is saying, you don't need a special room. You don't need to be in a lotus position. You don't need to have done anything other than ask. And they're not connected with any religion. Not one whatsoever. So they kind of permeate all levels of life. And, in this day and age, from what I can clearly see up here, we need all the comfort and good counsel that we can possibly tune into. So once again, I'm going to give Ardith's cell phone. Her name is Ardith, Ardith. That's an old world number.
It's a Welsh name.
Okay.
That means field of flowers. It's also an early form of the name Edith.
Okay. She looks like a flower. I mean, the name is so beautiful to her. I keep looking at her lovely face and thinking somewhere in England or near a lovely field and with a different time. She comes from a different time zone. And I don't know how you've adjusted to this world, this time zone. Because it has to be hard for you.
Come along on my journey, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I would like to mention one of my favorite books that I came across when I used to work at the bookstore is a book called Angels in My Hair. And the author is a woman named Lorna Byrne, Byrne, and it's a memoir. And Lorna Byrne is a woman who grew up in the 1950s in Dublin, Ireland, in poverty, to a large Catholic family, and she saw angels since birth. And in fact, I believe the first sentence in the book is, when I was 2 years old, the doctor told my mother he thought I was retarded, which was a word used back then. And that was because she was always distracted, because she was seeing these angelic beings around her, so she was looking in different directions. She was never really focused and constantly communicated. And when she was a little bit older and had enough consciousness to understand, the angel said to her, don't let anybody know, because back in those days they could have put her away thinking she was off balance or whatever. And she really was not shunned by her family, but treated as different. And she really was raised a lot by the angels. And she's a lovely, lovely woman. And I did get to see her. She comes to New York occasionally. And someone I had done a reading for, maybe about 4 years ago, had called me one day and said, you know, I had bought that book that you recommended, but I never read it. But I just didn't. It was fascinating. And she's going to be in New York in a couple of weeks. Would you like to go with me? And I did. And there were probably, it wasn't a Hyatt hotel in New York, there were probably about 200-300 people in the audience. And there were people, just going back to what Elaine just said about angels and how, you know, they're not any particular, anything like that, religion or whatever. In the audience, there were people of all different ages, all different colors, all different religions. There was a Muslim cleric and a group of people with him. There were all kinds of groups of people. And she's this little humble Irish lady. She's not a packaged person at all. And she came in, and there was a radio personality who I did not know, who was there for the first part of it to just, you know, prompt her with questions if need be, which there really wasn't. And then she took questions from the audience. And the very last one was from a little girl all the way in the back. And she just and this little girl was crying. And I think her uncle had just passed on, and she was asking about her uncle. And Lorna just kind of motioned her up to the front, and this little girl with her little braids and little glasses, about 8 years old, went up there. And it was beautiful because Lorna now was sitting on the edge of the platform and just took this little girl in her arms and cradled her, and they had a whispered conversation because it really was no one else's business. But in Lorna's book, she talks about being about 8 years old in Ireland, where they had their Protestant Catholic problems back then, and that one day she was walking down the sidewalk with her aunt, and there was a Protestant church across the street, and she looked over because she saw angels in front of it, and her aunt said, don't look at that, and don't look at that church, and remember, you don't ever go in there, that's bad, whatever. And she said, if you could see how many angels there are in front of every church, synagogue, mosque, they are all there, and they are all filled on the inside. And she also said that when she comes to America, when she sets foot on our soil, it feels different under her feet than any other country she's ever been in. And it's because of the melting pot that's here. It's because of all the different energies that have been brought here by all the different groups of people.
Interesting. Could you give the name of that book once again?
That book is called Angels in My Hair. Mm-hmm. And it's a memoir by Lorna, Lorna, Byrne, Byrne.